Hi, everybody. We're just going to wait a couple of minutes for everybody to join, and then we'll get started at about 5 after 10. Hi, everyone. Just a couple more minutes. We're going to wait till more viewers join. We'll start in 2 minutes. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our AdWords Hangout on Air. Transform your business with a smarter click-to-call strategy. My name is Dave Miller, and I'll be moderating our Hangout. Today, we're going to be walking through the latest click-to-call trends and discussing some best practices with a panel of click-to-call experts. I'd like to introduce our panel of experts. Hanging out with us today is John Busby from Marchex. Marchex is a mobile ad technology company focused on phone call measurement. We're also joined by Cameron Uri from Extra Space Storage. Extra Space Storage offers over 900 household and business commercial storage facilities in the US and uses click-to-call for new customer acquisition. Finally, we're also joined by Josh Ashton from Progrexion Marketing, the market leader in consumer credit report repair. Progrexion also uses click-to-call to reach their customers and to generate new customers. Let's quickly take a look at what we'll be chatting about in our Hangout. First, we'll talk about why click-to-call is so important for businesses. We'll review some of the current trends in mobile and focus on calls to businesses as well as the ad formats that can drive calls. Next, we'll talk about creating a better click-to-call strategy. We'll take a look at a couple of great examples of how Progrexion and Extra Space Storage are successfully connecting with their customers using click-to-call ads. Then we'll turn our attention to our panel of experts, including our very own product manager on click-to-call here at Google, Anurag Agarwal, to explore these trends and dive deeper into some of the best practices. Finally, we're going to open this up to a live Q&A from the viewers like you. So please chat in your questions as we go, and then once we reach after the panel discussion, we will start addressing questions from the Q&A. We look forward to your questions, so hopefully you guys will enter in any questions for both the panels as well as the Google Product Manager. So why is click-to-call so important to businesses? And why should you care? For that, I'm going to turn it over to John Busby from Marchex.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for inviting me to the panel today. It's great to be with everyone, and Cameron, Josh, great to be on the panel with you. Click-to-call is an extremely important subject to me and to Marchex, and I'm excited to talk about it today. So as context for the next couple of slides, I run the team at Marchex that analyzes phone calls from digital advertising, including Google, and we also publish findings on mobile advertising, one of which was a study on Google click-to-call last month. We believe absolutely that click-to-call is essential for no other reason than the device we use every day to connect to the internet now is in fact a telephone. I remember when I was starting in this business about 10 to 15 years ago, when businesses that hadn't quite figured out e-commerce or how to drive consumers from Google to their website really started to lose out on market share. And we're experiencing the same phenomenon now with mobile advertising. The data that you see on screen is a study from Nielsen published in 2013 and shows some data points that I think we all feel like we know but are worth emphasizing. The number of smartphones owned by US consumers has nearly doubled in the last couple of years, and this is also a device that 2/3 of us use to access the internet daily. We're always searching on our smartphones, and we use nearly a dozen apps every month. So mobile advertising is definitely an imperative. Moving on to the next slide, I think it's a fair question to ask, given the subject of this Hangout, is where do phone calls fit into to mobile advertising? There's been a lot of good research focused on this subject. This is one of the best, coming from Google in the spring of 2012, that looked at consumer behavior and found that the most common responses from mobile search are not the types of responses that we make from a PC. 70% of consumers connect with a business directly after making a mobile search, either by calling that business, 52%, which is the most popular of all the responses conducted in the survey, followed by actually looking up the business to go directly there. And as you walk down, you can see the other things that people do with a smartphone. But from my standpoint, if you're not including a phone number in your advertisements on Google, or really anywhere that you want to be on mobile, it's almost like in the PC era, not having a way for someone to send you an email or fill out a form. Okay, moving on. So what types of businesses really rely upon phone calls for sales? If you're attending this Hangout and you're from a brand or an agency, you probably already know that calls are essential to your type of business. But I think the probably the biggest takeaway is on the left-hand side, where anybody who used to advertise in the print yellow pages, or maybe businesses that still do, nearly all of them rely on phone calls, and they've in fact wanted phone calls for decades, or perhaps even 100 years if they've been around that long. And then as you walk down the list, you can see a couple of themes for the types of businesses where consumers really prefer to make a phone call for mobile search. And those themes are, it's an expensive or highly considered product like financial services or auto. It's urgent or complex like multi-city travel arrangements, or it's something that's on the go and urgent, like I want to go to a popular restaurant tonight and see if there's a table for me. So across the board, click-to-call is a really important way to connect with your consumers. This slide comes from BIA Kelsey. It's data from 2014 and tries to put in context the volume of phone calls coming from mobile search. And what it says is that click-to-call from mobile search will result in more than 50 billion phone calls in 2015. And while we'll search much more than we make a call in 2015, we only call when we're really interested in inquiring or purchasing a product or service. This is why it's so important for advertisers to take advantage of this. And then the last slide that I'll cover in this why is click-to-call important section comes from data from Marchex. So what we do is we measure phone calls from an advertisement all the way to a sale and attribute it back to the specific tactic. And if you take advantage of best practices, which we'll get into later through the case studies by my co-panelists and also Q&A, you can achieve very meaningful results from your advertisements. Some of the categories we have up here on screen are a third of home service calls resulting in appointment, nearly a quarter of calls for cable or satellite TV resulting in an installation, and it's also important for rental cars and hotels. So nearly any of the categories that we talked about before, if you have a good click-to-call strategy, you'll make money.
Thanks, John. With that, I want to underscore a couple of quick points that you mentioned. If you look at the rate of calls that turn into a conversion for these verticals, it's pretty significant. When you think about it relative to an online click to a website, and you think about what the average conversion rates that we see in different verticals are, click-to-call conversion rates seem to be much higher across the board. So it's something that because of that, we want to encourage advertisers to think about including in their business and offering it to users, so that they can try to give them the option to connect in the way that they see fit. So to talk a little bit more about that, I want to turn it over to Josh Aston from Progrexion to talk a little bit about how they're using call extensions successfully.
Hello, everyone, and thanks, Dave, for the introduction. And John, thank you for building a strong foundation on the importance of mobile. Just to expand on my role and my title here, I'm the Senior Director of Digital Marketing at Progrexion. We're a full-service marketing team. We focus heavily on digital marketing, strategic business partnerships, TV, radio, and basically all things direct response. In the past year, we've become much more involved in awareness-building campaigns, including measurement approaches and overall strategies. As introduced, we're actually the leaders in the consumer credit repair market. We consider ourselves to be in the financial services category, really focusing on helping people resolve inaccuracies on their reports and allowing them most often to purchase a home or a car. We manage the marketing for Lexington Law, which is a law firm that has been in business since about 1991. And we also manage the marketing for CreditRepair.com. CreditRepair.com is a non-law firm that also helps consumers remove inaccurate or unfair items on their credit reports. Calls are very important to our business and both brands that we represent, as the credit repair space has historically had a lot of bad players in the space that have caused a lot of mistrust or inaccuracy in the industry. Lexington and CreditRepair.com are changing that story and providing people with a reputable, effective solution to resolve their credit report problems. We've also found that calls are a critical part of our sales funnel and approach for those very reasons. And so my story that I want to share today is about the need and benefit of optimizing click-to-call and leveraging its unique values and benefits to leverage a higher CTR. And by CTR, I mean click-through rate, and that includes, in this case, both calls off of the click, so click-to-call, and then just traditional clicks that you would have on an ad. We roll those both up into the CTR, and I just want to make sure we clarified that. Our challenge that we are going to share is that in 2014, in April of 2014, we ran ads in a number of our major campaigns that focused entirely on getting calls via click-to-call. We wanted to drive calls directly into our call centers, which we maintain internally in a very highly effective way. It seemed at the time to make sense to us that we only focus on the call aspect of our mobile ads, since we convert our calls at roughly 40 to 50% on paid search. So it seemed to make sense and be logical that we would drive the call and not worry about the clicks or them going to our website, especially on a mobile device. However, the solution that we realized is that we were not really maximizing overall performance because we weren't giving our customers the option in how to research or sign up with us. In May of 2012, we actually tested this and added clickable headlines and site links back into our ads. The results, we found that we could achieve a much higher net value if we gave consumers the option of calling, which converts at a 40 to 50% close rate, along with the option to go to our site, which is typically like a 2 to 5% conversion rate when paid search for us. It seems to go against our intuition, and it really gave consumers the option to enter a conversion funnel with a 2 to 5% conversion rate versus a 40 to 50% conversion rate, which we would see on those direct calls. However, we now achieve a much higher CTR and overall revenue yield when we combine and utilize a combination of both click-to-call, site links, and headlines. Walking through the slide, you can kind of see how we increased our CTRs by 100 to 400% by taking this approach, going from a sub 1% CTR on many campaigns to a 2 to 3% overall CTR on many mid to high level campaigns. These don't really include any branded campaigns. Branded campaigns would be much higher on that scale and on those numbers. We've been very pleased with the results and yield that comes from these tests and campaigns.
Great, thanks, Josh. These findings are really compelling, actually, and they underscore the need for companies and advertisers to include multiple different options for users to connect with them. The first example that you shared in the test was the call-only format, something that we refer to as call-only. It's very common and popular for advertisers to use when they maybe don't have a mobile website. But if you have a mobile website, we would encourage you guys to use the regular call extension format, which can also serve with site links and other ad extensions. This just gives the users the option to call if they're ready to call, or go down the path of clicking to the website. So thanks for sharing those stats. Those are certainly compelling. Now I'd like to turn it over to Cameron Urry from Extra Space Storage to talk a little bit about their example.
Hey Dave, thanks for letting me talk about this. I think we had a pretty interesting test or a case. A little bit about Extra Space. Is our second largest storage provider in the United States. So what that kind of allows us to see is basically, I mean, we're over 1,000 local businesses. You can see kind of what John and Josh are talking about with the impact of mobile and phone calls on a local business. And some of the context is mobile started coming on. Last year we were seeing like 1 in 3 of our customers are a mobile customer. This year we're on target to seeing 50-50 a parity between desktop and mobile. So we saw like the trends coming on when we were talking about users' behavior changing, becoming more mobile. And as a local business, we're in that local services category that John was showing, and we're seeing the same type of thing. We're seeing a lot of traffic, a lot of customers using mobile to find our product, and largely because in the storage business that happens because of life events, people's lives are changing, and sometimes it's their only their only internet device. So it's early on we were able to invest heavily into mobile, seeing that change, and I mean, John talked earlier about the degradation of yellow pages, and at one point, in our business where we are at today, we don't invest in yellow pages, we invest in search and driving people to mobile. So I mean, it is a drastic change in business models. It's somewhat scary, but what gave us the confidence to do this is we have some pretty high technical abilities with the scale that we have as a company, and being able to track phone calls from search to our call center and attribute it back to the keywords and reinvest into there. So as we started down the pathway and exploring how people were finding our business, our local storage companies through mobile, we saw roughly we're like 82% of our conversions, so that were coming from mobile, were coming through calls. So 82% was a big number for us, so we needed to figure out even how do we convert these things better. And like Josh was saying, we saw the same type of pattern with conversions. We have really high conversion rates on our desktop site, but when people were calling in and talking to our call center, we were seeing 50% conversion rates. So at that point, it's just like Progrexion was doing. It's like, yeah, well, that's worth investing and continuing to explore. So we had two different ways of tracking each visitor on our desktop, or sorry, on our mobile site, and our click-to-calls. So we had both of those going. So we were trying to understand what is the value, because every call that comes in to our call center is incremental cost. So our CPAs are typically higher at through a call center conversion. So is it worth it, even with the higher conversion rate? So we actually did a little bit more, probably an extreme test, but we turned off our click-to-calls for 2 months to see what was that impact. And what we found was, everyone that was converting through a phone call, there was a 27% incremental conversions that were coming from the click-to-call. So basically, 1 in every 4 conversions that were coming on from a phone call from our mobile site was coming from click-to-call, and we turned it off. Pretty much, we would just lose that customer. And if we went back and tried to do an analysis, okay, why is this happening? Why are people calling? Or why would we not get that conversion? And it kind of goes back to if you look to the search results page, if you have local results, you also have your paid ads on top. And if you have competition and they're having click-to-call, if people are on the move, as far as the search user experience of what's going on, it's easier for them to just click straight from the search result, then go to your website, find the phone number, and then call. So as far as like user behavior goes, that basically people will only call from search if that's their mindset. And so one thing that we try to do with Extraspace is always try to be where our customer is and really make that transition in their life easier. So for us, it's a no-brainer to have click-to-call on our ads. I think that once we ran that test, we saw a huge win. It's a win for us to have it. And if you look at it on the other side of what's happening in the search experience, if you're not having click-to-call, then your competition will be getting that call. That's it.
Thanks, Cameron. I think that's a great story of how you guys are using it. It's one thing that we've seen at Google is the rate at which call extensions and click-to-call has grown over the past few years as mobile has grown really indicates that this is a natural behavior for consumers to actually click to call. Everybody is familiar with a phone, obviously, and how it works. It's an easy way to connect with a business, and it's while it's a new technology, it's an old behavior. So it's really something that I think people are familiar with. And when it comes to actually learning about a new business and becoming a customer, it seems like a very natural way to do that. So I'd like to ask John from Marchex as we move into the panel discussion portion of the Hangout to comment on the level of customer engagement that Extra Space has experienced from their mobile users. Would you say that this is typical amongst some of the companies that you guys have worked with, John?
Yeah, Dave, thanks for asking, and it is typical. And I just want to say, Cameron, you all are clearly doing an outstanding job at Extra Space, and I love how you're testing and measuring everything that you're doing with Google and Click to Call. I do want to point out something that you said, which I thought was really interesting, which is what we hear a lot from people who are thinking about Click to Call, which is it's more expensive for someone to place a phone call and to have a person answer the phone than it is to have somebody sign up on the website. And other customers really experience the same thing that you have when you embrace Click to Call. Not only do you have more reservations, if that's what your conversion rate is, but the thinking that a phone call is too expensive ignores the natural preferred consumer behavior. And I liked your analogy about if someone's not calling your business and they want to call for a product or service, they're going to call someone else. So clearly when we look at, or when I look at your results, they're superb. At the same time, they're not an outlier. We see that for many types of businesses, a third or more of conversions are mobile, and the conversion rate for phone calls is very, very high. So kudos to you, and also I think it's a great testament to the importance of Click to Call.
I'd like to actually turn it over to Anurag, our product manager here at Google for Calls. Do you find in your conversations with other customers that other advertisers are having similar experience?
Thanks, Dave. Yes, definitely. For example, I noticed that Cameron said that over 82% of their conversion on mobile are happening over a phone call. I've heard similar numbers from many other clients. And in fact, like in some verticals, I've heard numbers like over 90% of conversions on mobile are coming over a phone call. So we've definitely heard this. It does vary by vertical, industry vertical. So in some verticals like telecom and finance, the number is even higher. But in some verticals like retail, it will be lower.
Josh, you guys tested using site links and other ad extensions in your ad. Have you guys done any testing similar to what Extra Space Storage has done, where you sort of turn off call extensions and see what the impact is on your business?
We actually, not in an incremental way, but I'll kind of explain what we have done. The increase was so good that it's hard to turn that back off, to be quite honest with you. But what we've done is we looked at the we made sure that we had a good pre-turning this on and a post-turning this on comparison. And we've really dove into the data of both time periods to see what differed, what changed, and just to confirm that it really was a smart choice for us to have the click-to-call option as well as the site links and site click options available. And there's a couple of things that we learned through the course of doing that. One, we definitely kind of look at a high level because there's a lot going on where people can call by clicking to call, and also where people can now click to the site and then call from the site. The one thing that's never changed for our business is that phone calls are still kind of king for us. And so whether they're clicking on the ad and calling right then, or whether they're coming to our site and calling, as long as it's a call, that's what we're really trying to achieve. So we really monitor our landing page. Now that we've introduced people being able to click on our site links and go to the site, one metric that we really watch is click to calls, or click to actually talking to someone. We call it a handle on our side. But basically, we really like to see how good our landing pages are getting people to call. And so once they click through, if they're going to click on that site, like we want to make sure that we're highly efficient at then turning that into a call. So for us, campaigns are typically doing fairly well if our landing page can get about 20% of the people to call in off of the landing page. And so we watch metrics like that, but we haven't really done any incremental one-off tests. As we continue to optimize and move forward, and as we look historically, that was one key change, is just looking at the overall impressions that our ad showed up for and how likely we were to convert those people ultimately, and then kind of diving into the metrics that make that happen, namely the metrics that drive the call. So looking at the click-to-call rate as well as the kind of landing page's ability to turn a handle over.
Great. Thanks, Josh. Yeah, I think it's really important. One of the things that you said about having the click-to-call option not just in the ad but also on the landing page. It's users don't necessarily want to call right away, but once they get to your site, they may click to call after reading a bit about the company. So I just wanted to sort of ask if any of the other panelists, John, especially from Marchex, as you guys have worked with multiple different advertisers, have you guys seen other advertisers testing landing page calls and measuring those in a unique way?
Yeah, we have, and I think it's really important to give consumers choices. Ultimately, when a consumer goes to Google, they're looking for something specific and may have their method of research or buying already in mind. And so I love that. I love that Josh is using a combination of click to call directly from the ad and click to landing page. And I can give you an example from the dental industry. If you're searching for emergency dentist, you're probably going to be clicking on the first phone number that you see. But if you search for something like child dentist or Medicare dentist, where you might just need a little bit more information before making a phone call, then a phone number on a landing page is super important. And we're seeing clients test all kinds of things for where to put the phone number, to give multiple choices for a phone number, where to put it alongside a sign-up form. So again, I love what Josh is doing, and I think it speaks to a best practice for what brands and agencies should be doing.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I think one thing to note too about functionality in AdWords for click-to-call is you can get very specific with where you enable a call extension. You can turn on a call extension at the campaign level, or you can just turn it on for a specific ad group. So if in that dentist example you wanted to just show it for emergency dental type queries, you can just include call extension and make it active in that ad group. You can also restrict your call extension to only show on mobile devices, or just on computers and tablets if you wanted to have a different experience depending on the device that the user's on. So shifting gears a little bit to Cameron, a majority of your guys' conversions at Extraspace seem to come from phone calls. Have you guys changed your business and changed your advertising strategy in any way as a result of that testing?
As far as click to call and what it delivers in our mobile experience, I mean, one of the things that we're understand is, okay, how often, basically the search user experience, right? So what does that ad look like when it shows up? How can we make sure to personalize that ad as we understand and learn more about where that customer is in their buying process? So at some point, we can understand, like, is this person like at a high intent? Are they at a beginning of their buying process, or are they are they a spontaneous person and ready to call right now? And making sure that the click to call action shows up whenever we want it to show up. And if it's 100% of the time, some areas, yeah, we want to show up 100% of the time. So we want to be able to test that, right? As far as what we're doing, our mobile experience in driving, and not driving, but helping customers like really make like a really good experience for them throughout their whole search experience, right? So where are they at in their buying process? What is it that they're actually looking? How are they cognitively processing information so that they can, we can deliver, the right content, the right time. If it's a click to call ad, great. If it's on their site, do they want to see, guides? Are they looking for, our call action right away as soon as they land? They want to talk to somebody on the phone, or maybe they want to do a chat on their mobile phone with our call center instead. So we want to really sculpt that experience all the way through their buying process. And then what we do is we carry that over to our call center. So if at some point we know they're looking for like storage in Boston, what we do is that, like I said, every user has their own phone number, and when they call that number, instead of our call center picking up and saying, "Hey, this is Extra Space. How can we help you today?" They're actually picking up, "Hi, I see that you're looking for at our facility in Boston. What's the unit size you're looking for?" And what we're seeing on the call center side is that can take a minute or two off that call. So our call times are shortening up. We can deliver the online experience offline at our call center, and really tailor the messaging to that person. So it makes it a much more seamless experience. And one of the things that we're working really hard on is then this call center agent really is good with people who like the personal touch. This call center is really good with customers that are just I want to do it now. Give me the nuts and bolts, and send me on my way. And so we can kind of filter, kind of send people to the right agent in the right area.
Great. Thanks, Cameron. Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, you guys are taking essentially an offline measurement channel in the call center in turn, and applying some of the best practices that we use on websites and on online analytics. Showing a more relevant landing page. Sending somebody into a more direct phone answering system that already knows something about what they were searching for is huge. It's really it probably really aids in the improvement of the conversion rate for sure. So as we transition into the Q&A section, I wanted to sort of ask each panelist for just a few thoughts on for the viewers on what they think is one or two important things to focus on over the next year with click-to-call and with calls. It can relate to measurement or formats or anything that just a word of advice you might give to folks as they think about their call strategy. So why don't we start with Josh from Progression.
Yeah, thank you. Wow, there's so many things I think we could test. I think one that I would recommend highly, and it's one that we've tested in the last couple of weeks, is really, and this goes back to common paid search 101, but really test, like with our example where we have click to call and then we have site links or other links, really test how long those links are and what they say. And I would say think of it differently than maybe how you treat desktop. There may be a particular language, particular site links that work on desktop, and what we're finding is the length and the actual language and the actual strategies differ quite a bit on mobile when we're using this kind of click-to-call click-to-call site link combo. And a couple specifics is we've actually found with length, I've kind of hinted at length, but length has actually been something that we've noticed that if we get to kind of a sweet spot, a shorter amount of text, it seems to work better. A little bit hard hitting, but just shorter. Like for example, on site links, we've typically found that about 12 characters is working really well for us versus the maximum 25 you could use. On regular links, we've kind of adjusted down to about 60 compared to the 70 opportunity you have. And that changes for us on desktop, but for whatever reason, and the consumer wants it to be a little bit more concise on that smaller real estate screen of mobile, and in conjunction with that click-to-call option. Kind of on a similar note, I guess number two I would say is really get aggressive about testing what your site links say and how you read. You're already giving people the option to call, and if they're not taking you up on that option, just be very, very clear about what other options you would want to give them or what other options you think they would want. Kind of like John and Cameron had alluded to earlier and had articulated well, I think when you give consumers options and you position yourself as the natural choice, you win. So if you don't give your consumers good options, you naturally kind of filter out of the selection process for the consumer. So just be really specific about what you think. They're not taking up on that option to call. What are the top questions or top things that the consumer would want to research, and give them that opportunity to click right through that link directly to the very relevant content on your site that would answer that question for them.
Thanks, Josh. Cameron, thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think a little bit of it is understanding what your user's doing and why are they making those actions, right? And then you can tailor that into testing the site links. What are the calls to action in the search? Also, like, what is that search experience looking like? And then make sure your site is, with your mobile site, like, make it blazing fast and relevant, and really user friendly. And so that, because I think with mobile, it's all about getting the person, get that user the answer on that first time, because I don't think people have tolerance for page loads or anything else on mobile. So as much as you can with what the technology allows on your mobile site, but definitely having a mobile, some type of mobile presence. At the same time, is if you have apps, I think that in the next 2 years, there's some really cool, interesting things that are coming along with paid search in the app world, and what you can do in driving some re-engagement back into your app, especially on the retail side. There's some interesting things that you might be able to do there, and like your retargeting and other things. So I'll pass it to John.
Thanks, Cameron. John.
Sure. Well, I think what advertisers should focus on over the next year or two is measuring phone calls all the way to a sale. If you think about when AdWords was launched more than a decade ago, businesses started advertising on keywords to go to a website, and they said, wow, this is really working. I'm making a ton of money advertising on Google. And then it evolved into investments in things like web analytics, conversion tracking and pixels, remarketing, et cetera. And I think that the brands that really want to evolve their click-to-call strategy will adopt the same types of things for phone calls. So answering questions like, what types of calls are these? Are they customer service or sales calls? By which keyword? How many turn into sales and why? What features are people asking about? How do I make sure that this data is piped into my CRM system or bid management tool if someone uses one? All of these things I think are super important to really win at click-to-call.
Thanks, John. And lastly, I'm going to turn it over to Anurag from Google.
Thanks, Dave. At Google, we basically realized that calls are an imperative on mobile. And like we've heard all the stats about what significant percentage of conversions on mobile are from calls. So if you're not measuring them, and if you're not using calls, if you're not measuring the calls, and if you're not optimizing for calls on your mobile website, you really are losing out. So some of our objective over the next year or two is to really make sure that we provide all the tools and the reporting necessary for you to be able to make the best use of calls on mobile search.
Great. Thanks, Anurag. So in our last segment, we've got about 5 to 10 minutes left. we're going to go through some of the questions that have been chatted in through the questions panel. So the first question is from Cameron, not Cameron from Extra Space, but one of the viewers. If you're looking to drive calls, is it better to have a responsive website, as in I'm guessing a responsive design website, or a mobile optimized website? And I'm just going to open that up to the panel. Whoever wants to jump in can jump in.
All right, I'll take that one. I'm a little bit confused by the question, I think, but I think a mobile optimized site and responsive site should be, I think they're both getting at the same thing, right? It's trying to provide a mobile experience, user experience, right? Either way, I think that making it easy, like on our site, if it's on the top right, trying to make sure that you have a good call to action so that people who want to call, all they do is touch a button and it can call. I think that's on mobile. I would make sure to do that. Anyone else?
I'd say a couple things to think about there, because we've got Lexington Law and we've got creditrepair.com. Lexington Law will shortly be responsive, but actually is not very mobile friendly as a website right now. creditrepair.com launched about 2 years ago and has always been set up as a responsive, very mobile friendly site. And we still can make it work with Lexington Law. I'm very excited to get a responsive site in place. But one thing we found is just really, I think it goes back to the consumer experience. Whatever method or site you can set up, whether it's responsive or an app or whatever, that gives them the best experience and the best ability to get their questions answered and get them to call in and take action. As Cameron mentioned, I think is the best choice to go. So just really focusing on the consumer experience and making sure that if you're giving them an option, if you're sending them to a site, one, that it's technology, it's optimized from a technology perspective or from a mobile perspective, but two, that it's not too thin. Sometimes I see people send people to a mobile-friendly or responsive page. There's not a lot of depth. You can tell that they just got it up so that they could say they had a responsive site. And as a consumer, I become very frustrated, or would become very frustrated, because clearly I click through. Clearly I have some research items or questions that I need to get answered, and it doesn't give me enough depth or is not consumer-friendly enough to meet those needs, and so I go on to the next listing or the next company.
Great, thanks, Josh. So another question we got that is getting some votes now is from Nick. We are currently using Marchex and we love it. Is there a way to have a call count as a conversion in AdWords and to see which keyword triggered it? So I'm gonna assume that question will be answered by John and maybe Anurag as well to talk about how you can track call conversions that are for advertisers using Marchex in AdWords.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks, Nick. I love that. I really appreciate the kudos. So as to what you can do within AdWords, as Dave mentioned earlier, you can target specific ad groups to activate a call extension. But if you want to know which keyword drove to a phone call, you need to do a couple of things. One of those is on your landing page. You can use something like Marchex to add some code, look at the URL, look at the keyword that drove that particular query, and temporarily assign a phone number to that keyword. And then within our interface, you can actually know which keyword drove the phone call when it's a click to landing page experience. And then we also have ways to estimate calls that actually occurred in the click to call, and it actually directly from the mobile search, and associate those to keywords as well.
Thanks, John. And Anurag, can you comment exactly on how calls as conversions works in AdWords?
Yeah, so we recently launched calls as conversions within AdWords, which uses the call duration as a way of defining a call as a conversion. So you can actually use that in addition or as a complementary to Marchex. So even if you're using Marchex, on top of it, you can just opt into this option from your call extension, and what it does is it puts another Google forwarding number in front of whatever number you're using, and then we can report on calls that are longer than a specified duration as a conversion. So it's free to use. There is no cost associated with it at all. So, and it works completely seamlessly with any other tracking technology that you might be using. So the benefit that it does give you is that it gives you very granular reporting. So the conversions are reported at all the levels that are available in AdWords. You can slice your conversions by keywords or by ad group, and you can also use these conversions in the bid optimization tools or automated bidding tools.
Thanks, Anurag. There was another question with another similar question on how to track call conversions at the keyword level, and from Mike, and just wanted to highlight what Anurag said. When you're looking at AdWords call conversions on mobile, you can see that data at the keyword level, and you can use automated bid strategies or any other bid strategies that you're using to bid on that data. Another question from Chris. Since advertisers may want to use different ad extensions, keywords, and bid adjustments with mobile ads, is it best to segment click-to-call ads in separate ad groups for separate campaigns? So it's a question about account structure and campaign structure for click-to-call ads versus non-click-to-call ads.
I'll start. I think that there's, as far as when it comes to like the architecture of your campaigns, that for us, like our campaign structure is pretty outlandish. Yeah, we wouldn't do that with ours, just for the click to calls. I guess once you prove for us, we've proven the value, so we haven't really decided to like split it out to control it. We just use like a mobile bid adjustment at the ad group level to just make sure that we're showing up on top. That's I mean, for us, if we're below 2, then you're not really going to be seen anyway. So we try to show up fairly high in the search results for those keywords that convert well for us. That's kind of a strategy from what we do. As far as like what extensions show up when, that would be some more learn. That would be fantastic from Google. I would agree.
Great, thanks for that. Let's see here. Other questions that we can address. A couple of questions about how Google and Marchex have been working together, and sort of how can the platforms coexist and work together. Marchex and Google partnered on some research recently, and kind of helped write a paper together earlier this year that is available on the AdWords blog and Marchex website. But in general, the two companies operate, on their own, and their technologies sort of can work together. So you can use Marchex tracking in addition to AdWords call tracking, and Marchex offers some additional measurement capabilities on top of that. So it's we don't want to necessarily go into too much detail about that, but just to address the question, you can use either one or both together. There was a question about from Ryan about how do you measure ROI from call analytics all the way to the sale. And this is a very important question and a common one, and one that we might not necessarily have a solution for right away, but is certainly one that we are trying to build on the Google side. So I just wanted to open it up to the panel on how do you actually measure not just the call conversion from a duration, but all the way down to the sale. that actually happens?
Yeah, I can take that. First of all, as Anurag said before, you definitely should, in Google, assign a specific duration to phone calls that you think have very strong intent and use those to help optimize and so on. Beyond that, though, I think that advertisers need to know a couple of things. At a high level, what types of calls are occurring? If you think about auto insurance, somebody may be calling to seek a quote on autos, but they also might be calling to file a claim because they just got in an accident. And one of the ways to understand that directly from a click-to-call campaign is to put in something called an IVR, or a phone tree, that helps you segment calls. And then beyond that, you need to be able to measure calls by specific tactic, ad group, keyword, and then a way to score individual calls. Keywords and ad groups will have a wide variety of sort of a disparate conversion rates, and so it's really important to start to measure those with a full-on measurement solution.
Can I comment as well, Dave? So with extra space, that is a big problem. I think that most advertisers have. We ended up basically kind of building a solution in-house to kind of do that. Like I was saying before, when you go to our mobile, any of our sites, basically each visitor gets a unique phone number. Inside that visitor, it also captures like the GCL ID and a bunch of other information, so that if a person calls, that phone number goes to the call center, it reaches our IVR, and it, like John was saying, then it says, is this a sales or service call? Great. They go to the sales call. They have been forwarded to a sales agent. They can then they take the reservation. Important to know about extra space is a reservation for us doesn't make us any money. It's pretty much a lead. So when we actually have like a revenue generated is when a person then goes to a facility and then signs the leads. So that basically that lead is then stored in our CMS, and then when that person then goes to our facility and signs the leads, makes a reservation, it's then reported back into our system so that we assign a revenue value to that customer, so that we can then we push back into our bidding systems and report. We can go back into AdWords and reinvest into that the keyword that drove that call. So I know that there's technologies similar to it out there that are a little bit more out of the box. That's how we do it for us, so we can really know what we're getting from calls driven, especially because with mobile was really important.
Thanks, Cameron. All right, we have time for about one more question. So let's take a look here. Will AdWords or can AdWords track calls from calls on desktop, tablet, or mobile landing pages? And I want to sort of pass this off to Anurag to give a perspective on how this is currently done. There are a few options here, and there are also third-party vendors out there that can do this for call tracking, call measurement. So Anurag?
Yeah, definitely. So if I understand the question is that how to track calls from landing pages themselves. So definitely there are lots of technologies already available. Companies like Marchex and others provide mechanism where you can dynamically replace the phone number on your website with a number that is unique to the session. And when the user calls that number, you know that what session the call is coming from, and then you can track the call and associate it with that user visit. We are also on the Google side working on something similar, but again, it will be our solution would be more focused on providing tracking the duration of the call. It doesn't have the ability to connect with your CRM system. So you won't actually know if the sale actually happened.
Great, thanks, Anurag. So there are a few different ways that you can do this. Oftentimes it involves using a vendor, or Google has a solution coming out in the coming months where you'll be able to essentially get call tracking, call measurement, similar to the way that we track calls from ads, but from calls on the landing page, and that data will be available and viewable in AdWords at the keyword level, similar to the way call tracking is available right now. So that brings us to the end of the hour, and we're out of time. But I wanted to thank all of our panelists for their time and for their incredible insight into their click-to-call strategies. It's been very valuable to hear everybody's perspective. And just for everyone's information, this Hangout was a Hangout on Air. It has been recorded and will be available for viewing in a couple of days after we finish everything up. It will also be posted on YouTube on the AdWords channel. So thanks everybody for viewing, and good luck with developing great mobile and click-to-call strategies going forward. Have a nice day.